Do you think the perspective you have on life and what you're saying, it's clear to me and it makes sense to me. But if you're a person out there that is struggling and can't walk their own path and is getting drawn in by other people and struggling, what do you think the difference is between someone who understands their path and that they should follow their own way, or people that are getting drawn in by all these other things? What gave you this clarity, if you want to call it that makes you understand that, no, I need to live my life my way?
Because we all search for happiness, but we believe it's outside of us, you know? And like you said, approval is a drug, you know? Acceptance is a drug. But you have to be yourself. They will accept you. Everyone accepts the truth. They have to, it's by default. Whether they like it or they don't like it, the truth is the truth. So you can be your truth. Whether they like you or they don't like you, it's down to them. There's a saying about, you know, to get an apple, you have to go to the tree. You know, you have to be your own tree in life and say, okay, look, this is my identity. There's far too many people following each other because they're searching for that sense of fulfillment outside themselves. So they do get it. Look at the rats you talk about. They get the hit. You'll get the hit, but there's an expiry date. It expires. Then you have to go back for more. That's why people tend to stay on these devices, because they need the hit. There's no sense of community no more because, you know, the bravery is done through the keyboards and phones and everything else. You know, if you have to stand a man up and look him in the eye, it's a totally different thing. A lot of people practice bravery in simulation first, not real life. We all have the ability to switch on at every given time to every given situation. If you practice the wrong thing, you lose your intuition and that spark to fly when you're supposed to fly. You know, in regards to, let's say I've had a confrontation, you know, my hands are gonna go when my instinct lets them go. And that's the best way to fight in my perception of it, because I let everything go. So, but in life, you have to deal with different experiences like that because everything has to be new. That's when you activate all your senses. Imagine practicing the wrong thing for the right situation. But we all have this ability to come alive in the right situation. But it depends on your level of calmness as well. If you're so calm, the calmest people, look when we done the fight camp. The calmest people became the bravest warriors. And you think, that little guy, he's got that much rage in him? Because everyone's capable. You know, you talk about David and Goliath. Everyone's capable. However big you are, you can be dropped. You know? So it's like, you got to trust yourself to be able to apply at every given situation. It comes like that.
But how do you build that trust? This, I think, most people struggle with. How do you build that trust in yourself? I think that's something that I've been thinking about, internalizing, and talking about quite a lot as well. Is how do you trust yourself that in that situation, forget fighting, but in that moment where you are needed, your true self is needed, how do you know who's going to be there?
Do you know who you are?
I know who I am.
Right.
But I'm a different case. I'm talking about people outside the world.
Okay, the first thing is you know who you are. You study you. Before you study anybody else in life, your responsibility to study, why am I born this way? Why do I think like this? Why am I 6 foot something? Why am I 5 foot something? There's a benefit to why you are who you are. You got to fully appreciate that before you can even come to deal with any individual. What's your relationship like with yourself? Do you appreciate yourself? If you don't appreciate yourself, my brother, truthfully, you can never appreciate me because you don't know what appreciation means. If you appreciate who you are, I promise you, I see it and I say, okay, this is truth. He can only come with appreciation because that's all he knows. When you encounter most people, how they deal with you is how they deal with themselves.
I'd say 100% that happens in relationships.
Of course.
I think what we say is women normally are a mirror of yourself, a mirror of you. So if you are being disrespected by a woman, it's not because they're a disrespectful woman. It's because they feel they can disrespect you because you are not showing them the respect that they deserve. So it's like a mirror of yourself. Yeah. So if you are, I'm not saying not good enough, but if you're not treating yourself with enough respect and proving yourself, then the woman will sense it and be like, oh, I can treat this guy like shit.
100%.
So I think that's something, but people think then, they, like you're saying, I think you're saying it in a slightly different way, but the external validation that people are seeking is all internal.
Of course.
So if they can internalize their minds and they can think about themselves and they can look at their situation and look where they're from and look who they are, then the external life becomes a lot easier because they're calm with who they are. But most people don't take the time to even look inside because everything's external, everything's outside, and I think they look for that validation that they need from themselves, from a girlfriend or from a brother or from a training partner or from the internet. Normally it's the internet now, but from a source that you cannot trust, because you cannot trust another person, you cannot trust the internet, you cannot trust, because until you can trust yourself. So if you can't trust yourself, how can you trust it? Like, this is what I believe you're trying to say. That's how I perceive your message anyways. Like, if you can't trust yourself, how can you trust anybody else?
Of course. If you don't love yourself, how can you love anybody else? Like if I'm full as a person, I understand me, it's very hard to manipulate me. If I seek something from you, it's like you're dangling a carrot and I could be trapped by said carrot. And this is why they call certain things a trap, because, like, you're seeking this so much, someone just dangles it in front of you, you're just going to go and bite. And it becomes like you become very manipulatable, which the world is nowadays, because everyone seeks approval. Everyone seeks love, but they don't understand it comes from them first. That's why I spend a lot of time alone, because I have to deal with me before I can ever address you. I have to understand me before I can ever understand you.
I think that's the crazy part about life now, is people are so afraid of that.
Yeah.
They're so afraid to be alone. Like, to be on your own, just you sitting there. I mean, we live in a beautiful place, so you sit in the beach and it's beautiful. But to be completely alone, I think that's the biggest fear for everybody, because they don't want to listen to themselves. They don't want to think to themselves. That they're scared of themselves because they've been made to believe that they have no value.
Of course.
So when they believe they have no value, they try and search for that value externally, and that comes from a job or from any that's when it comes financial, when it becomes, like you said about carrot dangling. Love, it's financial, and it gets you like imprisoned. You say trapped, but like I believe imprisoned, and they believe the only way they can get validation is if they earn that much money, or if they get that girlfriend, or if they do this thing, or they look like this, or they do. And until you can sit in a room or sit, like I said, for us, luckily on the beach, and relax and chill and be with your own mind, I think that's the number one step to understanding who you are. And personal story for me, that was my whole 20s, basically, or the beginning of my 20s, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I was completely alone apart from the gym, like my training partners. But I lived in a gym, slept on the floor, nights on my own. I was completely isolated, And I think it's what give me the clarity, if you want to call it that, and give me the understanding. I used to read a lot to myself. I come from a very, very religious background, so I spent a lot of time, thinking about spirituality and God and all these things and all these concepts. And I think, again, this is just me talking to myself, thinking about things. I think that's what's missing now with the world, is for a lot of people, because of there's single mother households, fathers are leaving, people are not being raised properly, whatever you want to call it. The society now has mum and dad both working, so most people are being taught at school or by TikTok or by the internet, whatever it is. I think most men now, as they grow up, they're very, very lost.